Hello, Matt. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so excited to have you on the 1CX podcast. You have had 12 years of experience in the SaaS world, primarily in support and sales, and have worked with some really, really interesting organizations. I was looking at all your, all the different experiences that you've had, and it's so great that we have you today because I also see that you're becoming a voice in the support world, coaching different teams and organizations in how to revolutionize support, how support can actually not just be a cost center, but also something that organizations, especially in the SaaS world, can use to really, really cross sell, upsell, and even like changing the way people who are working in support. So it's really exciting to have you and learn from you. So tell us about yourself and your entire journey in the area of customer experience, support, and sales.
Yeah, awesome. First of all, it's really good to be here. I appreciate you having me, Amaya. So like you said, I've been in SaaS for about 12 years now. I actually started in customer support for a small startup here in upstate New York. And I was doing that for about a year and a half. I'd come from a background of sort of retail and kind of computer repair and things like that. So
Mm.
I got into customer support and I really liked it. I was on a small team. We did a lot of cool things, that kind of startup life where everyone's really, no one's really siloed into one thing. We're all kind of
Yeah.
sales and marketing and support. We all do everything. But one day my VP of sales pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I hear you're on the phone a lot. I hear you talk to people. You're clearly very comfortable. Have you ever thought about getting into sales before?" I had not. It was not something I'd ever really looked into, but this was a person I trusted a lot. He had showed some confidence in me. So after a couple of years in support, I moved over to what would you basically you'd call a sort of an onboarding role. So
Hmm.
as account executives would close a sale, I would
Hmm.
help them get set up, pass them off to support, but look for opportunities for upsells if possible. But really just making sure that they're excited about that initial use, that they're ready to go, and that they're equipped to use the system fully. That they're not just kind of thrown to the wolves. So it was a good
Hmm.
place to get kind of a taste for the sales side of things because there was a little bit of sales, but it was still mostly support.
Yeah.
Then another time I got promoted into a sales manager role, and then some account management things, and I did some more sales for a while for a few other companies in the area. But what I found was support was kind of calling me back. I liked sales; it was a challenge for me. While I am, I think, a bit of an extrovert, I do kind of fall more on
Hmm.
the problem solving side. I like the technical and breaking things down. If you ask, my parents or my siblings, they'll tell you that when I was a kid, I was always the one that was taking things apart. Couldn't always figure out how to
Yeah.
put them back together, but I'd like
Yeah.
to take things apart and try and get them back.
Yeah.
Um, and so I went back to support and was there for a few years. But then a couple of roles came up that brought me back that were just good opportunities. They felt like good opportunities to get back into sales. And so I gave
Hmm.
that another try. I just feel like I hadn't really given it a fair shake.
Hmm.
So I was back in sales for a while, and now I'm at the point where okay, I've given sales a good try. I've had some good success there. I've learned a whole lot, but I
Yeah.
know support is kind of where I belong. It's what I do best. It's where my skill set fits best, and so now I'm in that place where I'm looking to find my next great customer service opportunity.
That's going to be amazing. It's just so interesting that you say that because not a lot of people feel the same way. They always treat support as like a starting step to something else,
Right?
you know?
Yeah.
And I've noticed that people who are more support people, they also have a nag for sales and success. And, it all comes down to people management. But also,
Yes.
very interestingly, they have a knack for finding problems and then figuring out where a customer is stuck and going and solving and proactively like looking for it. But it's not talked about, it's not
Right.
talked about. It's not there's no voice on this, which is why we do this podcast as well, especially for people who want to go back and change the way things are done. So I saw that you talk about this concept of support that sells, where
Yes.
empathy meets revenue. So can you walk us through how customer support teams can actually identify opportunities without becoming salespeople completely?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it's something I really believe in. I I think excellent support can be sales, but it can also be marketing.
Hmm.
With regards to sales, what we're doing on the support side is really hearing everyday problems from our clients. So sales is, my experience with it is that's really exciting phase where people are getting into this new thing that they're going to be using that they're going with because hey, this is something that's really going to help us out. And support, when you're on the support side, you're going to hear what their actual experience is, not what they heard on the demo, not what they saw in that discovery call. So you're getting their actual experiences here, and you can understand more of how client X is actually using the platform as opposed
Hmm.
to an ICP, what your ideal customer is going to be doing here. Those can be different. Um, so and support, what I want to do and what I'm talking to my teams about is understanding sort of the root. There's the old saying that no one buys a quarter-inch drill bit; they buy a
Hmm.
quarter-inch hole, right? They would
Hmm.
the end result. And even more than that, if you keep following that through, you don't really need the hole. You need a place to put a hook, so you can hang
Hmm.
a painting, and that's or a valuable memory or something like that. So
Yeah.
in support, I want to listen for those things. I tried to do it a lot in sales, but your contact is limited. It's really just those initial conversations. But as people get into it, you understand more about what they're trying to do day to day and how they're trying to use this product. And so you can
Hmm.
listen for opportunities. Okay, this is what they initially signed up with, these three pieces of our platform, but we have five. It didn't make sense for them. Either it wasn't explained well or they didn't understand it. But as I'm seeing the way they're using the product, I can really keep
Hmm.
an eye out for those potential either upsells, cross sells, and just come to them from a point because you're seeing them and talking to them semi regularly. You can come to them
Hmm.
more from a point of, hey, here's my recommendation,
Hmm.
knowing our service, our product so well. And now that I have a better idea of how you're trying to use it, this is what I would recommend. So it's less, here's what companies like you are using because
Hmm.
nobody's the same, right? Every company is a different
Yeah.
company. But when you're
Yeah.
actually hearing and fielding those support issues and tickets, you start to develop a picture of how they're actually using this product. And there might
Yes.
be opportunities there where you can say, okay, this is what my recommendation is to you based on how your company actually is working and how our product can potentially help you there. So that's the big thing, is just listening with the intent to understand and not just, okay, you told me your problem was X, I'm going to solve X and close the ticket.
Hmm.
Just kind of trying to pay attention and understand
Yeah.
what could really be the issue there.
I could not agree more. I have done work in marketing side as well, right? And I used to always feel like whenever we wanted ideas or, wanted to pitch something to customers, I would just go and say that, why don't we talk to the support team? They're the ones who are talking to the customers every single day.
Yes,
They
exactly.
are understanding their language, even things that like even things that they're saying about the product when they're explaining things to you are actually their understanding of the product, which we can go and talk about. So I think it's a really, really great idea. And I think that the knowledge that you get from that entire support team, and if, especially you have people who are looking out for these kind of things, that really is a holy grail of knowledge, in my
Yeah,
opinion. you know
100%.
yeah, so
The
you
other thing
also
too is
mentioned.
like,
Yeah, go
oh,
ahead, go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing too is with regards to marketing, an excellent support team is an excellent marketing tool. A
Hmm.
subpar support team is a really rough marketing tool because people are going to hear
Yes.
things and they're going to talk and they're, the businesses when they're in the same industry, they talk to each other. They
Yeah.
understand what. So if I'm looking to purchase a software and I know my neighbor across the street uses company X, I might
Hmm.
reach out to them just to see what they're doing and what their experience has been. And a poor customer support experience can be a real problem, whereas
Yeah.
a fantastic one is going to pull people in. It's going to be a big magnet.
Yeah, I exactly was just coming to that because you mentioned that support is sales, it is marketing.
Yep.
Because so many Like if you get one bad review is enough for you to have, or one
100%.
churn with a bad review is enough for you to lose business, and it gets harder to get new business. But good
Yep.
reviews, great reviews can actually even sometimes overcome a lot of the feature gaps that you might have at this point in time. So what specific
100%.
signals should support reps look for that indicate that a customer could be ready for using another side of the product, an upsell, or maybe even an expansion?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few things that I try and keep an eye out for. Whether it's someone saying, we've been doing this part manually, or hey, we've been growing a lot recently. Those are kind of two of the main ones that I'm looking for, or if they're,
Hmm.
you get more than a few tickets of, hey, this process is frustrating. So
Yeah.
that we can keep an eye out for where people are struggling, so that we can get some feedback, some actual feedback over to product and dev, so that maybe there's room for us to make some changes here. So sometimes it's going to be that, nope, this is a core feature, this is how it needs to work. And what we can do then is we can start to talk about, okay, this is why we built it this way, and here's why it's a
Hmm.
feature and not a bug. Have those sort of
Hmm.
conversations there. But yeah, those are kind of the big ones. Is whether it's growth, it's frustration, or it's
Hmm.
they're doing something manually that I know we can help them with. Either if it's lack of knowledge, they didn't get trained on
Hmm.
this, or sometimes it's a new feature that came out after they were onboarded, so they didn't really get trained on it, and maybe they
Yeah.
missed some of our new things coming out. So
Interesting. So there's always this conversation around the measurability of support efforts, right? And we obviously use a lot of different kind of scores, the CSAT score, the
yep,
NPS scores, and I believe that you have really good experience with these scores, and you've maintained really, really good scores in the teams that you have worked with. So how does that happen? How do you first tell me what do you think about these scores, and then
yeah,
secondly, tell me how does that happen? Like how do you maintain that consistency in maintaining a good score?
yeah. No, I think it's a fair question because it's support is a much more reactive industry than something like
Hmm.
sales. Like when I'm in sales, if I'm short on my number, if I know I'm tracking behind where I need to be for my month or my quarter, I can make some adjustments, and I can put out more cold calls, work harder on my
Hmm.
social, improve some of my messaging. There's some things that I can do proactively that can help me out. With support, it's tough. It is a reactive field. We don't usually proactively reach out to people on the support side. We wait for them to come to us with questions. Now, there's always things you can do to kind of boost those scores. But with regards to tracking it, I feel like when you're trying to rate these things as a leader,
Hmm.
I don't think it comes down to any specific one number. It's more of a holistic approach. You want to look at what their CSAT score is. You want to look at what their average time to response, their total closed tickets. But you also want to look at what kind of tickets they're dealing with. Because if you have someone that's a real, like a subject matter expert, they're going to get some or some trickier customers, excuse me, that are going to not necessarily
Hmm.
give quite as high a CSAT, and they might take longer on those tickets, but it's so valuable to have those people. So you've got to really kind of pull the whole picture in, which means more work on the leadership side, but it's kind of your reps will notice that you're not just saying, because if you're just going purely on numbers, people can game that system. They can grab those quick tickets and get really quick responses and really high ticket closure rates, but they're not really doing a whole lot to help the team. So you've got to kind of factor it all in. What I always recommend with keeping your numbers up and making sure that you're getting good responses and is just to approach sort of every ticket as it's a person and not a ticket.
Hmm. Hmm.
Understand that when someone comes into the queue, they're looking for help. They may be frustrated. You're gonna have to deal with that. My first
Yeah.
step is always to get these people calm first, to let them know that you're
Hmm.
here to help. It's not always going to work. Some people are just frustrated and it's not going to go away. You're going to try
Yeah.
and do your best and just keep pushing that. I totally understand. I would be frustrated in this spot too. Let's try and get this fixed. But the other thing too is to, when you feel like you know the whole situation, just ask one more question, because you never know what might be causing an issue. If someone says I can't get logged in, are they
Hmm.
mistyping an email? Are they, you
Yeah.
know, putting their password in wrong? If someone's saying, "Hey, this is I've been using this system for 5 years. I know how it works. And today it's not. Okay, we may have a bug, but it may be just that they're having a rough day and something's causing an issue between them and the keyboard sort of thing.
Hmm.
So really listening to understand and treating people like people, really. I had a leader tell me once that just imagine that every person on the end of that phone call or chat is your grandmother who you know struggles with tech. So just
Yeah,
have some
that's a great
patience,
one.
try to work through it, and just understand that they want the system to work. They're coming to you because they need help, and so
Hmm.
react that way. Understand that this is not just uh, like a job. You want to actually try and you're getting to help people, which for me is
Yeah.
the reason why support is a big fit. Because I just enjoy helping people. So
That's so true. It all comes down to that sense of empathy as well, right? In
exactly.
customer support, I feel like more than a reactive role, it's a very high empathy role,
Yes.
because the best customer success support is the one that has a lot of empathy, where people actually like will remember how you've treated them. And
100%.
I have noticed that the first, if you and so I've done customer support, and if you start off with you're absolutely right to be angry, and what you're saying is not wrong, it's completely right. You have every right to be angry. Let me figure out how to help you. That
Yeah.
is a very disarming moment for an angry
Yes.
customer. That they're like, okay, well, what am I going to yell at this person for? They know that I'm right.
Yeah. Right.
you
Exactly.
know so they
Yep.
listen, and then you listen. Most important is that you listen. The worst is when you start arguing back, or like getting frustrated because the customer is not using the product the way they're supposed to be using, or they're getting confused, which means that, again, that is something that as a business that needs to change, right? It's not just the
Yes.
customer's lack of understanding. So
Right.
what do you think of the first response time? This that kind of score, I've noticed there's a lot of emphasis in companies for maintaining a really good first response time. Your SLAs are all dependent on that. This is what you promise in your sales as well. But what is your opinion on a metric like first response time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to vary based on team size and customer base. So, my first role in support, there were four of us helping like 4,000 customers. So
Oh
there was
God.
a different number there based on a
Yeah.
team. I've worked on teams that were, 80 or 90 support reps working on about the same amount of customers. So it dropped significantly there.
Hmm.
It's something that you got to kind of get an idea for. And for me, it's something that I always want to try and do better, but incrementally, right? So if 2024, our first response time was, let's say, 3 minutes from chat comes in to our first response. What can we do to push that to 2.5, 2:45,
Hmm.
something like that? Not bringing it down to a minute or 30 seconds because that's not reasonable. But you want to
Hmm.
just always trying to beat where you were yesterday, right? You compete with yourself, sort of. I'm not worried
Hmm.
about what our competitors are doing unless there's a huge gap.
Hmm.
I always want to try and be a little bit better than we were yesterday.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm kind of keeping that goal. And then if I see, a rep is significantly ahead or significantly behind, both of
Hmm.
them raise antenna. Because I'll if it's really ahead of everyone else, I want to take a look at some of those tickets and see,
Hmm.
okay, is this someone just kind of cherry picking and grabbing
Hmm. Yeah.
those, the really simple ones? And if they're really far behind, it could be that they're doing a lot of research and grabbing those kind of trickier tickets and the ones that are getting left by other people.
Hmm.
Um, so it's something that it's a good starting off point. It's a
Yeah.
good place where you can look for your outliers,
Hmm.
and trying to adjust. But I don't want to use it as the only metric, because
Yeah.
there's just so many variables in there. But it is a good place
Hmm.
to say, okay, here's about where our team is, and as a
Hmm.
goal, I want to try and push that a little bit. I don't want to try and burn out my reps. I don't want to try and make them go crazy and think that there's no empathy coming from me towards my reps. Because
Yeah.
honestly, I'm a big believer in I want to put my team first, even more than the customer. Because when my
Yeah.
team feels like they're cared about, then they're going to care about the customer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like looking at your first response time in isolation and promising a really, really good first response time in isolation are two ways of getting your business a bad reputation.
Yeah,
And I would really look at it from like, okay, what's the first response time? And this is great, but what was the total resolution time?
right.
And what did the customer leave behind? Like, what was the score that they gave you? Or, so all these things need to be studied
Yes,
together, looked at together. Sometimes you're right, people take more time to respond, but it's probably because they're doing a little bit more research. They don't want to jump the gun. And I feel like the support industry has kind of made this like a thing, that the first response
yes,
time, where the first response time is so great, it creates the wrong kind of expectation
right.
that can be completely rectified at the very beginning when you have good expectations that we might not respond like in 2 minutes, but when we do respond, we solve your problem, you
Yes,
know
yeah,
so
exactly. And
this
the other
I
thing
think
that's
needs
nice
to
too is,
change. Yeah.
yeah, well, the other thing that's nice too is when you're actually spending the time to figure out what the issue is. So your total response time might be a little bit longer, but usually what you're doing there is you're informing the customer. So
Yeah.
the big picture there is you're also reducing your overall ticket queue, which then a natural kind of consequence of that, or benefit of that, is that you're going to
Yeah.
reduce your ticket volume, which will reduce that first response time because you'll have less tickets coming in. So yeah, you're right. The big picture is everything matters really. So you
Yeah.
gotta. It's tough
Yeah.
to you can't just put one metric out there because
Yeah.
it's not going to give you the right picture.
No. So I saw that at NBC Sports Next, which is pretty impressive that you worked over there. You were promoted to a coach in a very short period of time. So how was that experience, and what kind of methodologies as a coach would you share with people in the customer support teams to use in their careers?
Yeah, so that was yeah, that was a really cool spot. I worked with a lot of great people there. I think the biggest things are, it's sort of what we've been talking about is coming in every day with that empathy, um,
Hmm.
listening to understand, not just to, you know, okay, it's she said XYZ, I'm going to solve XYZ, right? You want to figure out what maybe the root is of that and what's causing this problem, so you can sort of cut down on that volume, and work to make sure you've got these really excited and happy customers. And then when it comes to leadership,
Hmm.
with regards to coaching other teammates, it's interesting because I want to try to be there as much as possible without being a micromanager.
Hmm.
My first sales manager that had this saying. They said everybody runs their own shoe store, right? So he said, basically, I don't care how you get to your number, get there.
Hmm.
Now that's going to be a little bit different with support, but what I take from that is I'm going to trust you to be a great employee. If there's anything that's failing, we can kind of discuss this and work on this with coaching. But from the jump, I know you're here because you're a great employee and you're going to do great work. If there's things we need to address, if there's things you need help with, or a certain issue is slowing you down when you're running it every time, let's talk through it. I can do some shadowing. I can work with you on some
Yeah.
tickets. I can assign you to someone who's an expert in that particular process. But what I really want to do is I like to give people more actionable steps, things that they can do starting today. That's not, hey, be better, but it's, hey, if you do, maybe use some more variables or macros in your responses that can help with that. You're
Hmm.
not the best typist or something like that. And then what's key to me is that feedback loop. So it's not just I gave you feedback, you've got a month to figure it out, but it's like, hey, we talked about this a week ago. How is that going with that? How have you found, using that new macro or using that new variable, and how's that been? Okay, you're struggling with that. Where is that coming in from, and trying to identify. So for me, it's this balance of trying to give consistent and actionable feedback without
Hmm.
being that someone who's sort of hovering over them, and like daily, hey, I see your tickets were at 45, they should have bet 52. What's going on? Like, I'm not worried
Yeah.
about that. I want to worry about the steps the sort of actions that you're taking to get there, because then the numbers will take care of themselves. If you're doing the processes right, if you're getting the things that need to be done from sort of the foundation level, then the efficiency and the numbers, they'll take care of themselves. So I want to focus on those things rather than, hey, it's Tuesday, your goal was 45 tickets and you did 43. I don't, that's not what I'm looking, I'm not going to get over on people about that because there's so many variables that can come into that. It was a slow day.
Hmm.
Somebody had a really
Hmm.
big day. I was working on some more complicated tickets. It's just, I want to work on those foundational things so that I
Yeah.
know if you've got those in place, you can get moving and you'll get things going right. So,
That's so true. I see this in support a lot where the manager is driving numbers. Like, why are your
yep.
numbers not closing? Why is this not happening? And that I feel like becomes a major demotivator. Yes,
Oh,
I've
huge.
seen it be a motivator as well, but that motivation comes at a cost of the quality of responses, you know?
Right.
But yeah, so when I see people like being like, oh, you only got this much, you only achieved X%, or you're driving like so many numbers, congratulations, and like it just probably sets people up in the wrong way at many times,
Yes.
as opposed to giving them the skills that they need in actually like making like incremental improvement. So
Right.
I think it's a great approach, and management itself, like support management itself, is evolving, so
Yeah.
coming to that, like we've spoken about empathy, and that is the key of a great support team. So how do you build that empathy that scales with the business?
Yeah. And this goes back to a little bit what you were just saying about how um, some people are going to be motivated by, I need your numbers to be higher. Some people are going to
Mm.
resent that. So
Yeah.
I kind of come at it from, listen, all people are different people. You can't
Hmm.
manage every person the same. You can't manage two people the same. So when I start working with a team, I want to get to know someone, not even work stuff. Tell me about things that you're passionate about. Tell me about things you do outside of work. Because I want to get an idea of what makes them tick and what is going to be the best way to keep this person doing their best. My goal when I'm managing a team is 100% focused on protecting and fighting for that team, giving them the resources they need, giving them the motivation they need. And if things go bad, put it on me. If things go well, give it to them. And I
Hmm.
think having been on that other side, having been the individual contributor before, those are the people that I want to do my best work for. When I see that my manager is making sacrifices to make my job easier and
Yeah.
they're giving me praise that maybe they had something to do with, okay, that's someone that, yeah, I'm on your team and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that our team as a whole is fighting together. So I want to
Yeah.
treat people like people first. And as long as, like I said, they have those foundational things that we're addressing those, if they feel like I see them as a human being, they can come to me with things. I don't want to, their private life is their private life. If they want to share with me, fine. But I, what I want to be careful here is I don't want to be that person that's like, treat me like family, because I'm not. This is a
Hmm.
business
Hmm.
relationship. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I am someone that you can come to and talk to if, hey, I'm starting off late because I'm dealing with something outside of work. Tell me
Hmm.
that. I want you to feel comfortable to tell me that, because then I'll step up and cover where I can, or I'll assign someone else to kind of step up
Hmm.
here and we'll take care of things where we can. But for me, it's about treating people like people, whether your team is 5 people or 50 people.
Hmm.
Um, Understand them as people, give them those foundational, what they need to be successful. Usually,
Hmm.
people will do the best
Yeah.
for you.
Just like customers are not tickets, people are
Right,
not agents,
right,
So I think
exactly.
because we are in this whole volume handling game, we end up like we have dehumanized customers through tickets, or like ticket, passing on
Yes,
tickets. And same thing we've done with agents. We're like, oh,
yes,
this agent, that agent, it's like that person, that's a person as
yes.
well, you know.
Yep. Like I
Um,
said earlier, like you treat your team like the most important people in the room because they are, and then they'll pass that treatment on
yeah.
to the customers, and everybody wins.
I cannot agree more to that. I think that I've only seen success in these in customer facing teams when they feel as strongly as you feel for the customer, and that only happens when they're treated well, you know.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
so so I wanted to ask, so like you've worked in 4-person teams and you also mentioned like 50-person teams. So what framework would you use to have like help support leaders structure their teams both for efficiency and for that customer satisfaction as things are scaling?
Yeah. I think there's two things I want to focus on, and then one thing that'll apply to both. So I want to have some people that are excellent at triage, at
Hmm.
getting things from the top of that funnel into the proper bucket. And
Hmm.
then I want my subject matter experts. So I want to have, if I've got a larger team, I want to have some people identify who's currently really good, like who's the go-to for scheduling or,
Yeah.
the billing portion of the app. And I want to build them out a bit. So give them some buffers and some people that can help in that, so that as that triage team gets them into the right buckets, we've got people where they need to be. Um,
Hmm.
so you've got your kind of main subject matter experts, and then they've got some sort of background around them, two or three or four people that can move around, but are also, so it's not just one person on billing or one person on scheduling. And then overall, I want to work on ways that we can optimize and keep moving a little bit, um, be a little bit more efficient with what we're doing. So it's that triage team, it's that subject matter expert, and then both of them working as a team. We want to try and find ways where we can move things a little bit quicker, move things a little bit more efficiently, but also keeping that empathy, keeping the customer in mind first. So yeah,
Interesting.
it's kind of that two-tiered.
Yeah. So it's not a straight pipeline, right? It's not like
Right.
the volume is coming in and we're just dividing it as we go along. It is more the pipeline is split according to skills and according to your initial analysis of the customer issue that comes up. Which also brings me to escalations because
Yeah.
as managers, we are facing a lot of escalations and we have to deal with the escalation. So, how do you coach different reps and different leaders, support leaders, in handling escalations while maintaining good customer relationships?
Yeah, it can be scary. I think the first thing for everyone, and it needs to come from the rep first, is you need to see this. You need to remain calm, right? Calm. It's
Hmm.
going to be everyone down, keep things from getting crazy. Um, I had an old support manager tell me that, like a disaster or a nightmare ticket doesn't have to be a nightmare. You can look at it as an opportunity, because if you can turn that around and get this fixed efficiently, it can be a really good thing. So there's a few different things I like to keep in mind. First, keep people calm. That's the biggest thing.
Hmm.
Second is really over communicate. Ask more questions you think you need to. Empathize more than you think you need to. Keeping it genuine, of course. Sometimes you talk to a customer service rep who's clearly just using a script with a lot of "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." But
Yeah.
basically the point I'm trying to get to is just let them know they're being heard and that you
Hmm.
understand. So that's listening, and then an idea from sales is labeling, or excuse me, is mirroring. So like,
Hmm.
they say this, and this happened. Oh, I'm sorry that this, and this happened. Here's what may be causing that. But then the biggest thing I think
Hmm.
is for the initial support rep to be the owner of the issue. If it needs escalation, great. I'm talking to my client. Hey, I need to bring this to XYZ. I'm going to take this and run with this. Let me bring this back to you because I need to get them offline and talk to them. And then I'm going to be the person who comes back to you with the resolution, um, just so that they don't feel like they're being passed around, because that is
Hmm.
so frustrating when you go in for a customer support issue and you talk to person A and they're like, oh, that's not me. Let me transfer you to person A. So then you have to explain it again. Okay. Oh, you know what? They actually passed you to the wrong department. Now that you say that, I understand better,
Hmm.
but now I need to pass you to this person. That's not good. So I want my
Yeah.
support reps to own it from start to close. But if
Hmm.
if they need to escalate, if they need to talk to someone else, perfect. Let them know, hey,
Hmm.
here's what I'm going to do while I walk. I need to walk. I need to step away. I need to get back to you in an hour, whatever it might be. here's what I'm actually going to do. Here's what that's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to wait to hear back on that. And as soon as I hear back, I'm going to reach back out to you. So I'm your point of contact here. I'm the person that you talk to. And I think that
I
matters.
can't agree more to that, because just the fact that you're talking to someone and they've decided to handle your issue, but now it's with somebody else.
Right.
That's the worst. That's the
Yeah.
worst feeling.
It's really
And
frustrating.
in today's day and age, I feel like support teams can be structured in a way where if there is an owner of a customer and an issue, they can have enough. They can be involved. It's not a handover. Escalation is not a handover. Somehow we
Right.
have said, oh, now my manager is handling it, so I don't have to
Yep.
handle it. That's
Right.
not how it should be. You should be on that ticket, or the conversation, and closing it, because that person is depending on you you
Right.
know so I
Exactly.
think it's so important, and it also is getting the right kind of context on that
Yes.
problem. Getting the right kind of context, asking those questions, and making sure that context is, because when it's escalated, it might not be, the solution is not in your hand, right?
Yeah.
It could be with your manager, your support, or like some other team, for example. So passing on that context. So I feel like a skill that support like teams will need to develop and are developing is, how do you capture context, and how are you passing on the right context of that
Right.
conversation. And these days, I mean, with AI, I think it's that I think this is where AI becomes so handful, like so handy
Yes.
for support people. Like AI is not coming for your job, it's not going to do that
Right.
job, but what it will aid is that these kind of things where you don't have to type out a summary or everything, it can just take that for you and help you take it forward.
100%. Yeah. It's the AI thing is it's such a huge. I was wary of
Hmm.
it at first. I was afraid of it because I thought people are going to misuse this. But really, when you use it as just sort of a like an additional step, it can
Hmm.
cut out some of those tedious things that take up so much time.
Yeah.
I always recommend read it. Like, don't just
Hmm.
have AI write it out and send it out because there can be mistakes. But it
Hmm.
saves you so much time. These mundane tasks that are sort of almost grunt work. Have
Yeah.
AI do that stuff so that you can focus on the creative things, the things that you need to think about, the things that you need to um, show
Yeah.
empathy. AI can,
Yeah.
it's impressive what it can do with some of this stuff, but a human's never is always going to have the ability to really show empathy more than any AI bot there.
Yeah. And like we started off, right, in this conversation, like figure out those pain points that can be opportunities. Figure, like, this is
Yes.
where you evolved, like, because a lot of support people are always they're trying to solve a problem, or they're very excited to bring solutions, but those solutions are not in their hands. They're motivated to solving those problems. And now
Yes.
they have the time and the bandwidth to actually do that. So the team, like AI plus support, makes you a super agent,
Yes.
and that's
100%.
how it should be. It's not that we're gonna AI is a super agent, it's you equipped with that. So I
100%.
think if used right, there's so much that can be done. The final question. Training is a really important element to customer support.
Yeah.
You have somebody new on the team, depending on the complexity of the product, training can range from a day, a week to months, like in
Yes.
our case, training, it's 2 months long, so it's a long process as well. So,
Yeah.
and you've been in the different companies, small companies, large companies. So what kind of frameworks do you follow in having a really, really good training in place for support reps, and like for people who are new to the team?
Yeah. I'm a big believer here in the sort of 80-20 rule, right? So
Hmm.
80% of our tickets are going to come in from, this number isn't exact, it's going to vary all the time, but let's say just because it's saying the 80% of our tickets are going to come from 20% of these sort of issues. And so I
Hmm.
want to nail those first, make sure that my reps know
Very
how to
good.
get
Yeah.
into you and answer those 80%. And then we can work on, as they come up, that the trickier ones that are less common, that are less frequent.
Hmm.
And that's another thing that subject matter expert can help with, right? So know who
Hmm.
those people are. So I want to have, Doug is my scheduling person, Grace is my billing person, so that my new reps know, okay, I've got a billing question, I can go to Grace. I've got a scheduling, I can go to Doug, whatever it might be, and kind
Hmm.
of go through that process. of understanding that. And then as they, my subject matter experts know that, hey, this is a new person, don't just do it for them. Show them what you're doing, why this is the way it is, and you can walk through that process. And because there's some backup there on that subject matter expert team, they don't need to worry about the queue falling way behind when they're taking the
Hmm.
time to show someone the right way to do that. But I'm also going to mix in, some live shadowing. We've got playbooks that are going to be regular things that come up like that. Um,
Hmm.
and then just try and keep it kind of fun. I think that if someone's enjoying the process early on, whether
Hmm.
it's silly little spiffs or something like that that you can get on. But the biggest thing that's worked for me is during the training process, I'm telling my reps that if you have some downtime, if you finish
Hmm.
XYZ for the morning, go into the system and try to break stuff. Like go in and say, what happens if I do this? Okay, here's
Yeah.
someone, I've never used this before. This is what I think this software does.
Hmm.
How do I do that? And trying to figure
Hmm.
that stuff out on your own so you can get sort of the nuts and bolts side. Try to put
Hmm.
yourself in that spot of, I'm new to this. I just bought this
Yeah.
software. How do I do this? And try and figure it out,
Hmm.
because it'll give you that
Yeah.
sort of fresh set of eyes that
Hmm.
everyone that's currently working on my team sort of knows how, quote unquote, how we do things. This new
Yeah.
rep doesn't, and that's an
No.
advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can see things from different eyes that aren't, oh, we've always done it XYZ way. Maybe
Hmm.
that's wrong. Like,
Hmm.
so I want them to go in and see what they can find, and what happens if I press this button. Just go
Yeah.
nuts. Because
I love
you're gonna
it.
have some fun in this system, and you'll learn a lot, and maybe we might learn
Yeah.
from you in the process. So,
That's so true. I've seen that, and especially with when I get like very eager kind of like new team members, they have a lot of questions, and I'm
yeah,
like, I never thought about that before. It's the best way to get a good analysis on what's
yeah,
happening. So encouraging that, I think it's great. Thank you so much. I think we've had such a great conversation, and it's so interesting because this is the kind of stuff that we don't find on the internet.
yeah.
It's hard to, this is the stuff that comes out in conversation. So it is so
Yes, 100%.
exciting to talk more and more about customer support. And, we see the same trends. We just don't have enough knowledge about it. So great to have you. It's been really, really insightful. And also very, very great, grateful for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is awesome. I 100% agree. You can't do a Google search for this type of stuff. It's got to come out in conversation.
Yeah,
So really
yeah.
appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
That's what we're trying to change. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
and I hope you have a great day.